How your brain confuses pleasure with purpose. She scrolled through her feed at 2 a.m., thumb moving on autopilot. Each swipe promised something: excitement, validation, a reason to keep going. But when she finally set the phone down, the emptiness felt heavier than before. We've all been there. That strange hollowness after doing something that was supposed to make us feel good. The weird guilt after binge-watching for 6 hours. The numbness after the 5th coffee of the day. We chase what feels like pleasure, but somehow end up further from what we actually need. Here's what nobody tells you. Your brain can't tell the difference between what excites you and what fulfills you. At least, not in the moment. And that confusion is quietly reshaping your entire life. She used to think she was just indecisive. That she lacked willpower or discipline. But the truth was more fundamental than that. Every time she reached for her phone, ordered takeout instead of cooking, or opened a new tab while working, her brain was making a calculation. It was choosing the dopamine hit over the deeper satisfaction, the spike over the sustenance. Neuroscientists at Stanford discovered something unsettling. Dopamine doesn't actually make you happy, it makes you want. It's the neurotransmitter of anticipation, of craving, of that restless hunger for more. Your brain releases it, not when you achieve something, but when you're about to, when you're chasing. That's why the scroll never ends. Why one more episode turns into 5. Why checking your notifications feels urgent, even when you know nothing important is there. She started noticing the pattern everywhere. The way her heart raced when she got a text, before she even read it. The rush of adding items to her cart, more thrilling than actually receiving them. The excitement of planning a project, more intense than finishing it. Her brain had learned to prefer the hunt over the harvest. The promise over the presence. But here's where it gets darker. When your reward system gets hijacked by constant stimulation, something else happens. The things that actually matter, the slow-building satisfactions, the quiet accomplishments, the deep connections, they start to feel boring, meaningless, not worth your time. She found herself unable to sit through a conversation without checking her phone, unable to enjoy a meal without photographing it, unable to experience a moment without curating it for later consumption. When did living become preparing to prove you lived? The neuroscience is brutal in its clarity. Every time you choose the quick hit over the meaningful work, you're training your brain to crave speed over depth. To confuse intensity with importance. To mistake pleasure for purpose. Researchers call it dopamine hijacking. Your ancient reward circuits, designed to help you survive by seeking food and safety, are now firing at Instagram likes and streaming cues. Systems meant to motivate you toward life-sustaining behaviors have been reprogrammed to keep you clicking, buying, consuming. And the cruelest part, the more you chase these synthetic pleasures, the more your baseline drops. Your brain adapts. It needs stronger hits to feel the same buzz. That video, that used to entertain you for 10 minutes, now barely holds your attention for 30 seconds. You're not becoming lazy. You're becoming tolerant. She tried to quit cold turkey once. Deleted the apps, turned off notifications, bought a dumb phone. For 3 days, she felt like she was crawling out of her skin. The silence was deafening. The stillness felt like drowning. Her brain screamed for stimulation. Any stimulation. She found herself staring at the microwave timer just to watch the numbers change, rearranging her desk drawers. Anything to create that sense of movement, progress, happening. That's when she understood. She wasn't addicted to her phone. She was addicted to the feeling of wanting something. Her brain had confused the chase itself with the destination. But something shifted on the 4th day. The panic faded. The restlessness softened. And underneath all that noise, she heard something she hadn't heard in years. Her own thoughts, clear and unhurried. She realized she'd been running from boredom her entire adult life, not understanding that boredom is where creativity lives. That restlessness is where self-knowledge begins. That the uncomfortable gap between stimulus and response, that's where you actually exist. Neuroscientist Anna Lemke explains it perfectly. Our brains are designed to find balance. When we flood them with pleasure, they compensate by increasing pain sensitivity. Not physical pain, existential pain, anxiety, emptiness, the nagging sense that something's missing. We think we're treating ourselves, we're actually creating the void we're trying to fill. She started experimenting with what she called purpose friction. Small barriers between impulse and action. Leaving her phone in another room. Taking the scenic route instead of the fastest one. Cooking from scratch even though delivery was easier. At first, it felt like deprivation. Like she was punishing herself for no reason. But slowly, something recalibrated. The dopamine system that had been screaming for constant stimulation started to quiet down. And in that quiet, other signals emerged. Older, steadier signals. The satisfaction of completing something difficult. The warmth of an unhurried conversation. The subtle pride of keeping a promise to herself. These weren't intense feelings, they didn't spike or rush or explode. They hummed, they glowed, they lingered, they felt like coming home. Here's what the research shows. When you consistently choose delayed gratification over instant pleasure, your brain literally rewires itself. The prefrontal cortex, the part responsible for long-term planning and self-control, gets stronger. The amygdala, your emotional alarm system, calms down. You don't become superhuman, you become human again. She learned that purpose doesn't announce itself with fireworks. It whispers, it shows up in the decision to keep going when the novelty wears off. In the choice to build something slowly instead of consuming something quickly. In the ability to sit with discomfort without immediately swiping it away. Purpose is what's left when pleasure fades. But here's the thing nobody wants to hear. You can't think your way out of this. Your brain won't suddenly start preferring vegetables over candy just because you understand nutrition. Dopamine doesn't respond to logic. It responds to experience. You have to retrain it. Deliberately and repeatedly. She started small. 5 minutes of sitting still before reaching for her phone. One home-cooked meal a week. Finishing one thing before starting another. These weren't grand transformations. They were tiny rebellions against the tyranny of more. And they worked. Not because they were impressive, but because they were consistent. Scientists studying habit formation found something fascinating. The brain can't distinguish between a good habit and a bad one. It only recognizes patterns. Whatever you repeat, you reinforce. Whatever you reinforce becomes automatic. You're always training your brain. The question is, training it for what? She noticed other changes too. Her attention span lengthened. Her sleep improved. That constant background anxiety, the feeling of always being behind, always missing something, it softened. Not because her life got easier, but because her relationship with time changed. She stopped treating every moment like a problem to solve or an experience to optimize. She let moments just be. When was the last time you let a moment just be? The culture won't help you with this. Everything is designed to keep you wanting. Algorithms optimized for engagement. Interfaces built to minimize friction. Entire industries dependent on your confusion between pleasure and purpose. You're not weak for struggling with this. You're human in a system designed to exploit your humanity. But awareness creates space, and space creates choice. She wasn't perfect at it. Some days she still fell into the scroll hole. Still chose the easy dopamine over the hard work. Still felt that familiar restlessness creeping back in. The difference was, now she could feel it happening. She could catch herself mid-swipe and ask, is this what I want, or just what I want to want? That pause, that microsecond of consciousness between impulse and action, that's where freedom lives. Neuroplasticity research confirms it. The brain is more adaptable than we ever imagined. You can rewire your reward system at any age. It just requires something our culture has trained us to fear: repetition without novelty, effort without excitement, patience without payoff, the quiet cultivation of a life that matters. She started noticing a strange phenomenon. The things that used to bore her, long walks, unstructured time, conversations without an agenda, they started feeling rich, full, like she was finally tasting food after years of eating through a straw. Her baseline was resetting. Pleasure was becoming pleasurable again. What surprised her most wasn't just how much the mindfulness journal changed her routine, it was how she started feeling time again. Not time as something to fill or kill, but time as something to inhabit. This isn't a recommendation, just something that reminded her what presence feels like. The act of writing by hand, without editing, without performing, it created a bridge between her racing thoughts and her actual life. She'll never forget the moment it clicked. She was sitting in a park. No phone, no book, no purpose, just sitting. And for the first time in years, it didn't feel like waiting. It felt like being. That's when she understood. She hadn't been looking for more pleasure. She'd been looking for permission to stop chasing it. Your brain will always prefer the shortcut, the quick hit, the easy answer. That's not a flaw, it's an evolutionary feature. In a world of scarcity, efficiency meant survival. But we don't live in that world anymore. We live in a world of abundance. And in abundance, the real skill isn't getting more. It's knowing when you have enough. She learned to recognize the difference between satisfaction and satiation. Satisfaction says, this is good. Satiation says, I can't feel anything anymore. One is an ending point, the other is a symptom. When she unlocked her phone again, and she did unlock it again, it wasn't the screen that felt different, it was her mind. The frantic quality was gone. She used it, then set it down. Like a tool, not a lifeline. She'd stopped asking her devices to fill a void they were never designed to fill. The neuroscience is clear, but the living is messy. Some days you'll choose presence. Some days you'll choose escape. The goal isn't perfection. It's awareness. The ability to see what you're actually choosing, and why. Because once you can see it, you can change it. And once you change it, you remember, you were never meant to sprint through your own life. You were meant to live it. Slowly, deliberately, with your full attention on what's actually here, not what's next, not what's better, what's here. She still catches herself sometimes, reaching for the dopamine. Still feels that tug toward easier, faster, more. But now she knows what's on the other side of that impulse. A life she doesn't need to escape from. Tell us what moment hit you the hardest, and where in the world you're watching from. See you in the next reflection.